My name is Amber and welcome to my corner.
Alright, today's video is a part 2 of my painting my breakfast tray and sealing it. Today I'm going to go over epoxy resin. Here's the tray. Here's what I have painted already. That's already done. That was my last video. And it looks beautiful. I can't wait to seal it up. Before you ever start, before you do anything, you need to clean your whole work area. So the biggest thing with epoxy resin is that every little piece of dust, every little tiny hair. I have a cat and 2 dogs in my house right now. You want to clean everything. So there's dried paint on there, but it's clean. So I have wiped the table down, and now I have a spray bottle filled with just soap and water, like dish soap and water. It could just be water for this part. I just use the same spray bottle. Spraying the air gets all the dust particles in the air to fall to the ground. So now it's less likely that dust in general is going to settle on my resin as it cures. So I cleaned the table, sprayed the air, and now I'm going to clean the actual board. First I'm going to lay out all my supplies, and I'm going to pause it in a little bit and say every single supply you'll need for epoxy resin. So I'm just laying them all out. But the cleaning everything is so important. The way epoxy cures, if there's a tiny bit of oil from your hands, a little piece of hair, you'll know almost right away. So when I start working with it, I would have been able to tell if I messed up in cleaning it right away. Epoxy will separate itself like oil and water. It will just leave a little gap, a hole, or a divot in because it's self-leveling, but you'll see it go down a little bit. So gotta clean your table, clean the air. That's what I'll call spraying the air. We're cleaning the air, and then I'm gonna clean the whatever workspace you're going on, and I'm just using a little bit of dish soap and water. That's it, because I'm also wiping my acrylic paint. I want it to be something gentle, so I'm not gonna peel up any of my paint. You don't have to push super hard. We're not scrubbing the toilet, just gentle. And I use coffee filters because they leave no residue. They're perfect for cleaning your area for epoxy resin. Alright, so supplies, we got our resin hardener, resin and hardener, and I'm using Art Resin. This is the brand, and I get it from dickblick.com, dickblick.com, and then rag. You'll need a rag just for wiping stuff you're always going to need to be cleaning. Gloves is because you don't want any oil from your hands on there. Also, getting epoxy resin on your hands just sucks. You don't want that to, it's like using super glue or something and getting that on your finger. You'll need a kind of lighter torch, and you can find that in culinary stores because people use them for creme brulee, stuff like that. That's where I got mine. And then the fuel for it, I use butane fuel, and I found that at CVS. I was trying not to buy everything online. I'm like, can we have a store for things anymore? But yeah, I found that at CVS. It's going to be with lighters because people use them for their like Zippo metal lighters. And you'll need a spray bottle with water or a little bit of dish soap and water. You could have 2 spray bottles, one for the water, you spray the room, one for the soap and water to clean your area, table, and project. But I just did one, just soap and water for everything. You'll need needles or toothpicks, something very small and pointy that's to pick out hairs, anything that might fall in your epoxy resin as it cures. And then you'll need measuring tape to measure your project so you know how much epoxy resin to mix. Coffee filters, not just a rag to clean stuff, you need coffee filters specifically to clean your project. And I've done this many times. That's the best thing to wipe with that leaves no residue. And then a measuring cup to, of course, measure the epoxy resin. You need to be very specific and particular. I wouldn't just guess how much to use. Alright, so I'm measuring, for my board it was 18¼ inch by 14½ inches, and then you also have to measure that depth, very important, and the depth is about 1/4 inch until it gets to that hole for the handle. So depth you have to measure for epoxy resin. If you're doing a project and you want to seal it with epoxy resin over the edge of a canvas, so maybe it'll drip off the sides as it's curing, that I would just measure 1/4 inch. That's a really safe bet for any dripping off the sides thing. This one happened to work out that it was also 1/4 inch before that lip of the handles. And then, people do really thick epoxy projects, like someone sealed a hot dog inside of epoxy resin. So you can do all kinds of really thick projects too. You just need the correct molds and things to hold how deep that resin's gonna be, so if you wanted to do 2 inches deep, you need a border, some kind of rubber removable mold that resin would go inside, and then you would measure however deep that is. But most projects I do are just 1/4 inch. That's a good seal over a regular thin painting is 1/4 inch. That website that I used to calculate, I put below, and so you can use that website. Definitely, you don't want to guess, so use that website or just Google, how much epoxy resin should I use? And you'll get all kinds of calculators, but that's the specific one that I used. And so for me, with my measurements, it said I need 22.05 ounces total, and that's going to be a 50-50 split. I do half of that, so that was 11.025, but I really just did 11 ounces and it was okay. I didn't need that 0.025. Alright, so just trying to get my 11 ounces of each resin and hardener measured out, and I definitely should have used a clear measuring cup. The problem I have is all my measuring cups are filled with some kind of art excrement, so if you have a clear one, that would help you measure more accurately, but I've done it enough that I felt confident. Okay, so this is gonna be the very important part. I cleaned my spatula, even though I had already cleaned it. Clean it again. We don't want any random particles, dust, hair in there. And then you want to stir your resin and hardener for at least 4 minutes. Some people, if you've looked online already about this, they'll say 1 to 2 minutes is okay. I do mine for 4 exact minutes every time, and it's perfect. I've never had a single issue. 1 to 2 leaves room for error, in my opinion. People also might say not to spin too quickly because you're going to create a bunch of bubbles in there. I say who cares? You're going to create bubbles, but I'm going to show you how to get the bubbles out, so it doesn't even matter. The bubbles are the easy thing to get rid of after you've poured it. It's the hair and dust. That's the hardest part to me. To get rid of. So yeah, I'm literally going to stir this the whole time. I'm watching my watch, and you want to get your edges, always scrape those edges, go from the bottom, lift it up to the top. You don't want to leave any area that didn't blend. And you can kind of see when you first pour them together, you kind of see a swirl of the two liquids mixing, and then it's almost perfectly clear once it's done. But definitely don't go off the color. I'm just saying I could kind of tell that way as well, but I'm still watching exactly 4 minutes. You could go up to 5. I wouldn't go longer than that because then you're giving yourself less work time to clean everything up. But 4 minutes is perfect. I've done this a bunch of times. 4 minutes is perfect. And I barely sped this video up so that way you could really feel that length of time. I mean, I have to sit here and legitimately stir that for 4 solid minutes, no cheating. And then you're just gonna go ahead and pour it all over your project. And then I am fortunate with this one, it's not the runoff kind, which brings a few more challenges, trying to not get it to go all over your table, or you have to do other preparations for that kind of thing. I have the lip of the breakfast tray that's gonna catch all my resin, so it's not gonna drip everywhere. So you just pour it all in, and I'm gonna use that same spatula and spread it all out. Resin is self-leveling. However, if it's not touching every single area of that surface you want to cover, it's not guaranteed it's gonna spread over there. It's not like that. So I'm just double checking every single corner. Not worried about hairs, not worried about bubbles right now. Just make sure it touches every part of that top. Okay, now we're good. And this is when I realized I forgot to level my table. I've leveled it before, but as it sinks into carpet and stuff, things change. So I'm finding random things to put under there. I end up putting 2 pieces of a colored pencil box until both directions, lengthwise and widthwise, it's going to be level, my table. Because as the resin settles, if it's off, all that resin's gonna build up on one side of the tray. I don't want it to be much thicker on one side and then barely any on the other, or to come out those little handle holes. Okay, now once everything's poured, I have a 30-minute window. I can clean the whole thing up. So you'll want to know exactly what time it is. So 4 minutes to stir it all up, pour it, spread it on the table. That takes, I start 30 minutes from the time I've poured it on there, and I give myself 30 minutes. Some people say 15 to 45, there's these large windows. 30, you're safe. You're safe to do it in 30. After that, the resin starts to cure a little too much. It's gonna start getting tacky, where if I tried to dig in it, it's gonna leave that impression. You'll see my fingerprint or something like that. Okay, so I'm coming on with my torch. If you've never used a torch before, just read the directions on it. Literally, that's what I had to do. It has simple directions. Mine has just one trigger and then a lock, so I can lock the flame on and don't have to keep using that pressure and hurt my hand. Now this torch is the key to getting all the bubbles out. Go over the whole surface. I'm gonna do this so many times. You're gonna go over the whole thing. As it settles a little more, then you might see a couple more bubbles, but you also see I had to keep getting really low. Look at it in different angles, different sides. And after you get all those bubbles out, now I'm going in with my needle, or if you had a toothpick, that would be fine. And every time before I put that needle into the resin, I'm going wipe it off. So see, I wiped it. I almost forgot, but then I remembered. Wipe it off, and I'm digging out any little hair I see. There's just gonna be stuff, like I was saying, I have pets. I have hair. Maybe it would have helped if I put my hair back, but I wasn't moving around too much. I didn't think one of my long hairs was gonna fall out into this, and they didn't. But it's more hairs that are just floating around your house. You don't even realize that there's just hair in the air. Hair. Switching it up with my angle now, just so you can see closer how I'm just trying to graze that top surface. It's hard to see the actual hair bumps, but when you're in person, move your head back and forth in the light, it's really obvious. I was nervous the first time I ever did an epoxy resin thing, and then I did like, oh, no, you can totally just see hair sitting on top. And I wiped everything, I sprayed everything. There's still gonna be something, especially if you have pets. That's just the way it goes. And I'm gonna go back and forth needle, then back to my torch, back to the needle. You just keep doing it. I like to work that whole 30-minute time because that's the only time I have. So use the whole thing, even if you're like, I think it's fine. Check it again, just in case, because once it's cured, there's nothing you can do. At this part, I realized a little bit of resin is coming out that handle on my breakfast tray. So I want to, first I'm just wiping it. Wipe it up, because anywhere that dries, it's going to dry like an incredibly hard plastic. I don't want that on the edge of the tray. I want the tray to be, nice, smooth outside. So just wipe it, and then I tape it. First thing, stop the leak, whatever's happening. And now that tells me it's not quite perfectly level because a little bit's leaking out. So I'm going to find something small enough to fix this. But anything is fixable. So the thing is, don't panic. I'm not going to start my project over. I found a little painter stick and that seemed to work perfect. It was just enough that now this is better and I could tell the resin stopped moving that direction. But first thing, I didn't put painter's tape as one of the supplies, but I always just have painter's tape on me, so never a bad idea. And it peels off the resin really easily once it's dried. So that's one way you can hold things in the edges of whatever you're trying to seal with resin. Yeah, so now it's level and I'll just continue the same needle, torch, needle, torch. So that was my 30 minutes. I feel good about it. I looked at it. And now's the waiting part. For 48 hours. I don't even go into the room where I have the resin. That way I'm not disturbing any of the dust. So after waiting 2 days, this is also my first time seeing it. And I'm really excited. I was nervous. So first thing, just holding it up, and then I realized it's upside down. But let's just look at it. Yay! It looks so good. It's so shiny. You see all those reflections in there? I love it. It's almost like a cheaper way to just like put a layer of glass over your painting. Just makes it look really good, like it's one with this board now. So I have to remove my stick, remove my tape. Crossing fingers here as I pull it down, but you see it peels off really easily. So painter's tape is the best for anything you gotta keep in. And then I see a little bit to go over the edge. But I'm looking at it and it's something I could use an X-Acto knife and just kind of slice any lumps there. I wouldn't sand it because I don't want to sand any of the board, but if I wasn't worried about paint on the board, you could sand epoxy resin down once it's cured as well. Some people also recommend paint thinners. I've never done that, and I don't want to thin the paint on the brown board. So now I'm just going to go on with some water. Just to clear it all off, I do see about 3 little hairs that did get stuck in there. So it's not 100% perfect, but I'm just kind of wiping them to see, is this a hair from late in the process? Can I kind of like scratch it out of there? And just to clean off any dust, just to make it look extra shiny. But I love it. I think it turned out really, really nice. My mom's gonna love this present. Yay, final thing. So then I want to show you, this is a completely usable, durable breakfast tray. I'm just going to pour some water in it. And you see it doesn't sink in at all. It's not going to go through the wood. It's not going to get on the paint. Nothing's going to ruin your painting if you put this stuff on top. So yeah, my mom could do she could use it as like a cocktail tray, no sugar, nothing's gonna get under and ruin. It's 100% waterproof, durable. As long as she doesn't serve people a bunch of paint thinner in glasses, it should be fine. And it'll dry right up. Yeah, completely sustainable. I love this stuff. All dried, little bit of dots, but you see the little beads of water, how it just is resting on top. None of that's gonna soak in. So this is the final thing. This picture is taken outside. You can see me with my phone in it. Epoxy resin's very reflective. Very reflective. That's what I do like about it. So if you're going for a matte finish, this is not the thing for you. I would maybe seal your painting with varnish or something like that. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope this encouraged at least one person to try something new, either start a painting or try out epoxy resin. It's a really cool way to seal your painting. You could use it for all kinds of stuff, making homemade coasters, whatever you wanted to do. But thank you so much for watching my video. I'll see you next time in Amber's Corner. Bye!